Welcome to another edition of the Civ Battle Royale. My name is Dawkinzz, and let's get right into part 107. The name is to be determined at this point, so let's just move forward. Hello and welcome to another truly extraordinary episode of the Civ Battle Royale Mark 2.1. Your host today is user Admiral Cloudberg, r/Civ AI Games mod and contributor to the CBRX. Happy to come back for a second shot at narrating the CBR after being stuck with a filler part last time around. And I can say with high confidence this part is anything but filler. We begin with a piece of OC that this is in fact a map. The wonderful Varian, Varian, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He has hand-drawn this map, and it's by user Varian. Like the other map artist, this map brings a unique style of drawing that allows us to see the world in a slightly different way. And we also have our usual installment of Der Erlingkonig's tile-accurate map, which is just the thing you're looking for if you want to figure out whether Brazil controls your hometown or not. The power rankers once again put Brazil unanimously in first place, and there's a little reason to doubt this decision. It seems that every part Brazil absorbs more and more of the world. Now let's get into the action. Right on, jumping straight back into the second brutal Brazil-Boer war. It can be very hard to keep track of what's going on here, but by my analysis, it seems that Pedro has captured Gades, and Olympia since we last saw this region, several slides before the end of part 106. Brazilian advanced destroyers did the bulk of the heavy lifting in those captures, while the Boers respond with a counterattack made up of roughly 50% robot infantry and 50% biotroopers. Has Kruger finally decided on the perfect blend of man and machine? Brazil has made important gains in... Wait, did someone say gains? That's right, Brazil has captured Divin with the critical canal now under Brazilian control. It shouldn't be long before Pedro locks down the entire coast of North Africa. Not to mention that Brazil can now draw on the power of Leonidas and his magnificent loins. Brazil has also captured the minor Boer insettle of what is a minor footnote next to the fall of Divin. On the battlefield between Sibir and Mongolia, Genghis Khan has managed to hold on to Mandalgovi by virtue of Kumcha Khan's decision to put his range units in the way of his melee units. Genghis did not have any such luck at Shaoshan, however, which has returned to Sibir's fold, at least for now. As a fun side note, check out how bleak the area around Koro looks. The city strongly evokes images of Norilsk, Russia's factory city above the Arctic Circle. Now, imagine if Norilsk was home to 21 million people, and you have a pretty good idea of the hellscape that is Koro. To give you an even better idea, New York City's population is around 8.5 million. That's my hometown. And it's pretty fucking big and compact. So 21 million in an Arctic hellscape? Yikes. Over in the Gulf of Mexico, all seems to be quiet in the battle between the Buccaneers and the Blackfoot. Henry Morgan recovered Maracaibo near the end of the previous part, and no more Blackfoot units are headed in his direction. That said, Morgan isn't sending a counterattack beyond a fierce aerial bombardment of Austin, so it looks like this war might end with what most people predicted, a stalemate. I hope the Blackfoot can get through this without losing Austin or any city or anything like that. That would be embarrassing. Another turn rolls by and Brazil captures yet more cities from the Boers, including Kumasi, which a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away was an original capital. However, an enormous Boer fleet comprised mostly of cybersubs escorting embarked units is forming off Messina, and an even bigger carpet of biotroopers and robot infantry is building in Central Africa. This might be the first screenshot we've had in a long time that features more Boer military than Boer workers, or Brazilian strength, for that matter. Over in Egypt, Aswan appears to have been bludgeoned off the face of the cylinder, though it's hard to say who was responsible. This is also the first time we've seen Sparta this part, and I'm happy to announce it's back in Icelandic hands. At least Ingolfur will get to keep something, even though Pedro has taken most of Iceland's former cities for himself. Also note in the bottom right corner, I guess the Blackfoot and the Bucks are over. I didn't notice anything in the minimap that changed, but let's get a closer look in a few slides. In Arabia, Brazil has captured Nazran, which recently flipped back to the Boers, and also has taken Nova Iguacu. Ironically, Nova Iguacu is a Brazilian city name, but the city was founded by the Boers after they exhausted their city list. So does that mean it has met its rightful owner for the first time? It's hard to say. Eagle-eyed viewers, well, okay, almost everyone, might have already seen the peace declaration between the Bucks and the Blackfoot on the previous slides, as I had stated, but this makes it official. No cities changed hands in the war, ooh, thank God, although Austin and Petit Goave took quite a bit of damage and almost everyone in Maracaibo was killed. The Australian-Korean War is still ongoing, but it seems to have settled into a back-and-forth battle over Kyoto. But with Korean melee units having vacated the premises, this might be the last time we see the city in Sejong's hands. What at first looked like a promising invasion of Japan has left Korea fans sorely disillusioned, but if Sejong keeps building units, he may eventually be able to force his way back into Japan. Okay, I know you've seen it already, but I will address the elephant in the room when we get there. What this slide shows us is that Brazil has taken Kanongo with the help of another wave of XCOMs, while that huge Boer force that we saw earlier has mostly failed to materialize near the front. In Arabia, Brazil has captured Medina, Basra, and Bethlehem, only Mecca itself holds steadfast in the face of the Technicolor tide. Also of interest, Brazil has some biotroopers coming out of Baghdad, the first of their kind we've seen Brazil field in the battle. They've had some in their core for a while, but they never seem to leave. And what's that? You're distracted by something. Yes, we're getting there. Oh fuck, I haven't been paying attention to the slides! No! No! Oh, by some miracle of diplomacy, Korea has... Wait, what? Yes, it's Australia who initiated the peace treaty, allowing Korea to keep Kyoto. Okay, cool. They keep Kyoto. That means Korea actually won the war, having gained one city out of it. At this point, if Henry Park wants to win the war, he should wait for other civs to declare on him, because clearly offensive wars aren't working. And fuck! Okay, finally we see it. Yes, the Blackfoot have declared war on the Inuit. Pedro, you manipulative dick. What did you do to convince Crowfoot? What did you do? Okay, despite being next-door neighbors and best friends, the Blackfoot and the Inuit have literally never gone to war at any point during the 1,050 turns of this game, choosing instead to remain best buds until now. Mini Pedro, what did you do? And up until recently, few suspected that it would be the Blackfoot who would pull the trigger. It has been hotly debated whether the Blackfoot, who have a larger army that is nevertheless very outdated, along with a production base and order of magnitude smaller than the Inuits, could beat them in a war. At last, however, all speculation is swept aside, and we will find out for real. However, Crowfoot has done this in almost the smartest way possible, in coalition with Brazil. Now you say, wasn't Brazil already at war with the Inuit? Didn't they make peace this very turn? Yes, but diplomacy shenanigans have taken place. Brazil made a pact with the Blackfoot to declare war on the Inuit after giving them 10 turns to prepare. You all know the diplomacy option. But while the pact was still in its infancy, the Inuit preemptively declared war on Brazil. But the two sides made peace before the 10 turns had been reached, allowing Brazil to sneakily circumvent the peace treaty by accepting the Blackfoot invitation to begin the planned war. It actually works. You can try it yourself, but shit, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. It's like that scene in Game of Thrones where the White Walkers are now coming through the woods, except we like sent them an invitation to come or something. You're so stupid. Another potential obstacle for the Blackfoot is that a significant portion of their army and navy is over here in Mililani, where it's useless. They need to get it to the mainland as soon as possible if they want to count it in their struggle against the Inuit. This does raise the question on why all these units are over here in the first place. Was Crowfoot planning an attack on Australia? We may never know because he was stupid. Up in far eastern Siberia, Blackfoot overseas troops have begun their fight against the Inuit colonies in Asia. Although some Inuit cities are taking damage, the Blackfoot units are too few and too outdated to have any hope of penetrating the mountainous and heavily defended terrain at Kamchatka and Chukotka. At best, this front will serve as a distraction for the Inuit, and a poor one at that. Okay, alright, that's not the worst image to see. In the heartland of North America, things may be a different story. Blackfoot units are pouring into Inuit lands, damaging multiple cities, most notably Corpus Christi, which is in the yellow. The Blackfoot also have air superiority. I count 39 Blackfoot airplanes in this shot and 0 Inuit planes. But it's important to keep in mind that the Inuit have not made their move yet, and a lot of Blackfoot units, especially the damaged ones, can easily be killed in one hit by some of the future world units the Inuit are fielding in admittedly smaller numbers. In what we know as the southern United States, the story is similar. The Blackfoot have made a strong initial push, damaging several cities, but the viewer accustomed to AI games will know that the force here is woefully insufficient to make any progress. Another noteworthy development is that the short-lived Inuit-Brazil peace treaty has forced all of Pedro's XComs out of this region, eliminating a force that could have been a major assistance to the Blackfoot. This is done on purpose. But despite the action in North America, things are still happening elsewhere in the world, I guess. We can see in this shot that Brazil has captured Mecca, adding yet another capital to Pedro's already extensive repertoire, while also uniting all of the Arabian Peninsula under a single ruler for what I believe is the first time ever. That's actually very impressive. We quickly return to shots of the Inuit Blackfoot front, this time after another turn has passed. Up here, Blackfoot forces are making a heroic push against Mishmash and Kwamani Toak, but a large force of Inuit biotroopers and robot infantry are lurking just behind them to launch a counteroffensive as soon as Rian presses next turn. No! On the Great Plains, the Blackfoot are still pushing hard, laying siege to Medeowankanatuan, and pushing hard against 4 or 5 other cities. They're splitting the DPS. You focus on one target. Did you never play WoW? Jaffna is actually all the way down to the black, but the Inuit have surrounded it with a ring of powerful units to block the nearly dead Blackfoot paratroopers from capitalizing on the bombardment.
Too soon. You have awakened me too soon, Executus. What is the meaning of this intrusion?
Over in Africa, peace is declared between the Boers and Iceland. Really, both civs lost this war. The Boers took several cities from Iceland only to lose them immediately. Like what so often seems to happen these days, all the gains went to Brazil. The Boers do get one last parting gift out of it, though. The 6-city population city of Iset, which has barely any tiles and will fall to Brazil almost immediately. Congratulations, I guess. Down on the coast, Brazil has captured Denquira, and it really looks like that elusive Boer counterattack has either been mostly destroyed or has retreated into their core. There are a fair amount of units around Anziku and Loango, but less than before. I can only ask, what are the Boers doing with these units? It seems like they should be able to pump those out and push forward to start recapturing cities, but Brazil just keeps going and going and going. In Africa, Brazil continues conquering cities left and right, seemingly unfazed by that large Boer army that we saw a few slides back and is now nowhere to be found. In this turn alone, Pedro has captured Mampang, Ciudad Guayana, and Congo de Nyazla. Remember the days when Mampang was unassailable? Those days are no more. In Australia, it seems that Henry Parkes has almost completely carpeted his core with biotroopers and robot infantry. Almost all the Brazilians who were here embarked into the sea during the attack on the Kimberley, freeing up all the space for Parkes to finally build an army worthy of his reputation in olden days. For the first time since they declared war on Vietnam, Australia has a unit carpet, but will it be enough to pull them out of their doldrums? Brutal winter trench warfare combined with high technology, it's beginning to look a lot like Hoth around here. And it continues in Siberia as Genghis Khan cedes Kazan to Sibir, but continues to make sure that every frontline city is bombed to 0 HP. But Kuchum Khan has struck back, launching nuclear attacks on both Hisia and Karakorum. With the front free of Brazilians and with Sabir now playing the nuclear card, Genghis Khan's days are surely numbered. Back in the so far indecisive Blackfoot Inuit War, we are reminded that Crowfoot has some large cities in the Aleutian Islands. 41 population, please never ask me to say that again, has already fallen to the Inuit, and Ki is sure to follow. This is a big blow to the Blackfoot, especially their Blue Lobster chain, because one can only imagine how much science these cities were generating, even if they were doubtlessly low on production. Also worth noting is that the city that shall not be said again did not lose any population when it was captured, meaning that the Inuit are culturally influential over the Blackfoot. Or they really are the White Walkers and they know how to raise the dead. In Blackfoot, Mexico, the situation appears to be turning a little bit away from Crowfoot's favor. He has nearly captured Puebla, but his nearby melee units will be killed on the next turn. Some Australian and Brazilian units also block the way, all but ensuring that if anyone captures Puebla, it'll be Brazil. The Brazilian units flooding Blackfoot territory will provide a boost to their strength, but nevertheless, Crowfoot is failing to seriously damage most of the border cities, and the Inuit have now conjured up at least 40 airplanes and are using them to bombard core Blackfoot cities into the black. Back over by the Red Sea, Brazilian XCOMs are beginning to flood into the Horn of Africa, capturing Helsingborg and Halualuala. The Boers have managed to recapture Medina, however, momentarily breaking Pedro's unification of the Arabian Peninsula, that jerk. What strikes me as odd here is that I don't see any Brazilian planes on the front lines, yet there must be some nearby, or else they'd never be able to eat through cities like this quickly. However, the range of stealth bombers is so long that they could very well be stationed in Europe and still bomb this area, so it's no surprise that Pedro hasn't moved them near the war zone. The Blackfoot War against the Inuit has allowed Brazil to finally move some XCOMs in and take Guadalajara, while Crowfoot has managed to capture Laredo, making the first Inuit losses of the war. I'm going to start calling the buffalo hunt. Yes, I know they're bison, shush. The White Walkers have been kicked out of Mexico, except for some heavily besieged cities in Baja California, although Australian peacekeepers are starting to pour into Mexico. Deja vu much. We saw the exact same thing happening during the conquest of Mexico way back before the hiatus. Up in Egypt, Brazil has taken Hippo Regius and Cairo, netting Pedro yet another capital. I believe that brings him to 17 capitals total, which is more than a quarter of the original capitals he needs to win. I have to say, I never really imagined that a civ would reach this point, and yet, here we are. Note the planes, likely stealth bombers in Olympia. This is probably the leading edge of what has to be a very large air force. No, the tide seems to be turning in the buffalo hunt, at least up north, as the Inuit capture Kutamik and push hard on several other Blackfoot core cities, or border cities that is. Crowfoot is now almost entirely on the defensive, having failed to seriously damage any Inuit cities in this area, and now his entire army around Sutina and Upasamaik, I know I'm a fan, but I can't pronounce all these names, Ipaksameak has all but vanished. You know, I've been saying Blackfoot border cities, but the problem for the Blackfoot really is that almost all of their cities are border cities, and therefore vulnerable. Crowfoot is also in trouble in the Gulf of Mexico, where his army is almost gone and Austin has flipped. No! Brazilian XCOMs and paratroopers are beginning to make their way back into the southern United States, but none pose a serious threat to any cities yet, except maybe Puebla, which is somehow still in the hands of the Inuit. Jumping back to Egypt again, Brazil has taken Bilbais and Harar, though the latter is almost certain to flip. Pedro has also retaken Medina, ensuring that there are no orange splotches in his beautiful Arabia. The Boers clearly have a decent air force here, but by my reckoning, it looks like they're using it to bomb cities in Arabia rather than killing Brazilian units. This may be a fatal mistake on the part of Paul Kruger. The Inuit march into Austin, and this time they keep it. Laredo has also flipped again. On the front lines in Texas, Brazil seems to be doing the heavy lifting against the Inuit, pouring XCOMs into the area around Austin while the Blackfoot are only able to field a handful of paratroopers. But so far, there still aren't enough XComs to make a major dent in Econic's forces, and all the Australian units hanging out here are not exactly helping. I can respect Parks' efforts to enforce peace, but this is the CBR, and we like war, but not this war. Not this war. The hammer seems to be falling on the Blackfoot Corps as the Inuit captured Tsuut'ina and bombard just about every other city, including their capital of Sixikawa, down to red or yellow. Crowfoot has retaken Kutamiak and captured the Inuit city of Mede-Wankentawan, which was the Sioux territory where the blessed savior of Sitting Bull was once there. But they renounced their faith, and now look what's done. Now look what happened. But probably not for long, as their hold on almost every city in this slide is becoming rather tenuous. Seeing this now, it's hard to believe that so many of us argued that the Blackfoot could win this war. Yeah, if they didn't declare war on the Inuit before they were ready. I heard he made a Ragnaros joke, though. The Blackfoot have captured Torreon from the Inuit, which they will keep for now as the huge ice sheet fleet off the California coast doesn't have any melee units. It also must be asked what those Brazilian XComs think they're doing. Guys, the Inuit are over there, so you know you're in the wrong place. Brazil continues to make enormous gains in Africa, taking Ajura, Kwilu, Turinsk, and Baalbek. The next line of cities are major trouble as it is, and they are major gains for Brazil, containing a couple of wonders in Bloemhop, or whatever the hell it's called, and Klerksdorp. Both cities are either in the yellow or the black, and there are Brazilian XCOM units right nearby. If they can take them, that's, I think, 11 world wonders in 2 city captures, not to mention any of the other world wonders that I may have missed that were in North Africa. Anyway, note that you take a look at the mini-map and absorb the enormity of Brazil's conquests in the Old World. If those conquests comprise the entire territory of a civ, they would probably be ranked number 1. The golden age that began in Babylon on the previous turn has now ended, which seems odd considering the hype levels are currently through the roof. Note also that not even Antarctica is safe from large numbers of powerful Brazilian units. Visible here are XComs, biotroopers, robot infantry, arsenal ships, and advanced destroyers. This is a good unit composition if I ever saw one. Back in Mexico, the Inuit have taken Laredo and recaptured Torreon, but are struggling to prevent Austin from falling to Brazil. Econic moves before Pedro, however, so he might still have a chance to kill those XComs. As for the Blackfoot, however, things are looking just as grim as before. Not only have they failed to take Puebla, but their cities are all being bombed into red, yellow, and protected more by Australian peacekeepers than by their own units. Their main saving grace is their air force, but they're using it to damage Inuit cities they can't reach, instead of killing the units that are amassing on their borders. Farther north, the Ice Sheet fleet accompanied by a large contingent of melee land units. Apatapisipakani is just barely hanging on, and Sixikawa is in serious trouble as well. The once expansive, if not mighty, Blackfoot carpet has almost completely evaporated. The situation is similar in Africa, where Brazil has captured Atabubu and Diradawa. At this rate, it won't be too long before Brazil completely conquers the Boers, which would be quite something. I honestly can't believe this is happening. Now, who's going to last longer, the Blackfoot or the Boers? In Ethiopia, Brazil has also taken Safi, Axum, and a city whose name I can't read because the end is off the edge of the picture. Still, this is a dismantling on an epic scale, and I feel like I'm watching history here, like real history. There are honestly no words, which is why my commentary on these slides has gotten pretty short. At last, Brazil takes another city from the Inuit. It's Torreon, the city that the Blackfoot and the Inuit have been flipping back and forth for a bit. There is only one half-dead Inuit melee unit nearby, too, so it might stay Brazilian for a while. An enormous Inuit unit carpet is descending out of the north like some kind of sluggish tsunami, capturing Apatapisipakani and Senakasetatajik, and probably more off-screen too, yeah. We get it. Several Inuit biotroopers stand at the burning gates of Sixikawa, preparing to seize the capital of their last remaining rival in North America. Winterfell will fall. Indeed, not only has Tsinsikisasayik, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it, I'm too upset. Not only has that fallen, but so has Ipaksameak and Kana. The Hunk Papa has flipped as well. Come on, just toss it in there. The entire narrow strip of Blackfoot territory running northeast from Sixikawa is now in Inuit hands. The wall is down, and the White Walkers march, and which it seems to have proven right that those who said the Blackfoot area was not defensible when surrounded by the Inuit on so many sides, no matter how big Crowfoot's army was. At last, the Blackfoot have captured Puebla, but it's too little too late. The Inuit carpet has gone from only mildly concerning to downright apocalyptic, as Ekanik churns out units at an unprecedented rate. My god, that production. And those units are easily tearing through the tiny handful of Blackfoot units that remain, while Brazil doesn't seem to be contributing much in the way of assistance. In the name of Nebuchadnezzar, this is insane. Brazil has taken Blomhof, Hardingsburg, and the legendary funniest city on the cylinder, Klerksdorp. Not laughing now, are we? Brazil has also nuked the city of Virginia, and if there were ever any Boer units in this area, there definitely aren't now. I count just 16 Boer land units compared to 77 fielded by Brazil. How could Kruger let this happen? Did someone unplug him from the Skynet? Has Manny Pedro sabotaged the servers? Is Neo working for Brazil now? For the first time in a while, we get a good look at the Siberian-Mongolian War. Interestingly enough, no cities have changed hands since the last time we saw it. Sibir does have a bigger army on the front lines now, however, while Genghis Khan's doesn't appear to have increased or decreased significantly. That said, Koro has lost a lot of people, but it's still comparable to Norilsk if Norilsk had 6.5 million people. This slide is a mixed bag for the Inuit. Ekanik has retaken Puebla, but has lost Austin to Brazil, giving Pedro yet another capital. Come on, you greedy little boys. And the Blackfoot have managed to sneak an advanced destroyer into Waipahu, although the city should flip back very clearly. But I know you've already seen the sidebar notification. I'm gonna cry. That's right. Sixikawa, the Blackfoot capital, has been captured by the Inuit. And it's not just Sixikawa. The Inuit have also captured Hunkpapa, Madewonkintawan, Masakapa Pikani, and Sikopaksameak. Oh my god, how did I just read those? Anyway, at this rate, if it weren't for those Pacific colonies, Crowfoot might actually be facing elimination. In what used to be Texas, Oglala has flipped, but otherwise the only change is that there are somehow even fewer Blackfoot units than before, and for whatever reason, Crowfoot is still using his air force to bomb cities. When will he learn? For the first time this part, we are faced with an Africa screenshot where the Boers have more cities than they did the previous turn. Kruger has recaptured Safi and Klerksdorp, which is good because it has AngelNet, but given the number of Brazilian troops closing in on this area, it's not clear to me that this is anything more than a momentary bump as Brazil speeds towards total victory in Africa. In the Horn of Africa, Axum and Hololoa have flipped but are back in Brazilian hands. Brazil doesn't exactly have a huge number of troops in this area though, and the terrain is about to get seriously rough. If there's anything that stops Brazil, it might be this, but I definitely wouldn't bet on that. Oh, here's a fun distraction. Australia has reformed Catholicism, which is the majority religion throughout most of East Asia. I can only imagine what a religious reformation might look like in the far future. Perhaps there's been some edict of whether robots can go to heaven or not. Also of note is that Henry Parks has fully carpeted Japan and is beginning to spill units into Korean territory. It's interesting that the civs have open borders now. The Blackfoot are being whittled down into a narrower and narrower strip of cities as the Inuit claim almost all of the west coast. They've captured Anin and Torreon, locking up most of California, and it looks like they have a biotrooper in place to flip Monterey on the next turn as well. That'll be a devastating blow because the city is home to 10 airplanes, an artillery, and a missile cruiser. there's no chance for the Blackfoot to move them or kill the biotrooper either, because the Inuit move first. Since Australia reformed its religion, here's the religion overview. Parks has selected underground sect, which causes his spies to exert religious influence in the cities where they're stationed. This is unlikely to affect the game in any meaningful way, but it's fun to imagine Australian spies covertly implanting Catholic thoughts directly into the brains of the Cylinder's futuristic cyborg citizens. Brazil has rounded the corner of West Africa and entered Central Africa, taking Messina, Loango, Kavanga, and Zabid in a single turn. Oh man, this is quite ironic considering the Boers' previous devastation of the Mali, I believe they were. Who can remember? That was like probably 80 turns ago, I think. I can't restate it enough. This is absolutely unbelievable. This is truly the weirdest timeline. Sabir makes another push into Mongolia, capturing Darhan, but for some reason most of Kuchum Khan's army is idling well behind the front lines. It's worth noting that most Brazilian units have vacated the area, although some remain further back. Perhaps they left to fight the Boers, maybe. There are also a few Inuit units engaged in a skirmish with the Brazilian peacekeepers near Mandalgovi. And what is this? Brazil sweeps up into the Gulf of Mexico with renewed fury, retaking Austin and capturing Gonzales as well. Neither city looks like it will stay green for long, however, as Brazil doesn't seem to have brought any reinforcements to the area. They will probably flip back pretty soon. And Ekenik has captured Mexico City from the Blackfoot, even as a few Brazilian XComs try to steal that city away as well. Keep in mind that in this game, Ciudad Juarez is the original Mexican capital, not Mexico City. The Blackfoot capital has apparently moved to the island megacity of Mililani, where most of what remains of Crowfoot's army has congregated in a giant flotilla of sadness. My sadness. Note that the Blackfoot still control Honolulu, but I guess Mililani is bigger. Also note that the actual biggest city in Hawaii is Hilo, which has reached 50 population under the bountiful rule of Henry Parks, putting it among the largest cities in the world. Brazil finally takes Caesarea, uniting the entire Red Sea under Brazilian control at last. At last, I mean, like it was expected. That said, Pedro's progress in this area has slowed down markedly as terrain gets in his way, but with more conquests incoming in the west, he could eventually choke the Boers out of the mountains of Ethiopia. Here's a view of the... What is the sea called again? Well, I'll call it the Sea of Harrismith, in honor of a city that was once enormous but has somehow fallen all the way to 18 population. There are few Brazilians to be seen in this area, and plenty of Boers, which just goes to show you that Cougar has a large and productive core, even if he's lost more than half his cities to Brazil at this point. Don't show me this stuff. The end is nigh for the Blackfoot, at least on the mainland. The Inuit have now captured Monterey, Oglala, Ahapitape, and Los Angeles, leaving just 2 besieged Blackfoot cities in North America. It appears as though Ciudad Juarez has fallen off screen as well. Who could have predicted at the end of Part 106 that the Blackfoot would be reduced to a few scattered islands in Part 107? I certainly would have been skeptical. I mean, me and Boers the Stylish, we talk every single part about how the Blackfoot shouldn't be underestimated as long as they're left alone. But the Blackfoot were stupid. Why? Why do you declare war on the Inuit? They're your bros. No, this is... something's up. This is a conspiracy, that's it. Indeed, a broader look at Mexico reveals that the Inuit have taken Ciudad Juarez, while Brazil has captured Mexico City from the Inuit. Ekenik has recaptured Gonzales, but has failed to do the same for Austin, ensuring that Brazil's presence in North America remains, for now at least. Also, the Blackfoot still hold Waipahu, which means that they still have 3 cities on the mainland, for now. As usual, Brazil is also making progress in Africa, where Pedro has captured Matamba, Virginia, Gondar, and Klerksdorp again. I have to say, the city of Virginia looks kind of out of place here, and it definitely isn't virgin anymore. Holy crap, 1 turn later Brazil has completely broken through the wall in Ethiopia and taken almost every city here in one fell swoop. That includes Bloemfontein, which has some wonders in it, Kleinvestad, Echtmadzin, Harar, Addis Ababa, Mekele, and Adama. Haha, hooray, I love getting through these. If the Boers do not make peace soon, I could actually see them being reduced to a rump state or even eliminated. This is really beyond anything I could have imagined. But as you might have seen on the previous slide, Brazil has called off its war with the Inuit after making only minimal gains. Eknik remains in possession of Austin and Mexico City, while Brazil keeps Laredo, Guadalajara, Uxmal, and Therapne. It's technically a win for Brazil, but the Inuit gained so much from the Blackfoot, including 4 capitals, so they will barely notice the loss. The war with Brazil may be over, but the buffalo hunt isn't. Seeking to clean up what little remains in North America, Eknik captures Wapakudi, home of Petra, and makes a valiant attempt to squeeze past all of the Australians to take Veracruz. This is a genocide, but it was brought on by Crowfoot himself. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. What were you thinking? You think you could appease the big bad Mr. Mini Pedro, or whoever's in charge over there in Brazil? No. This isn't right. Another view of East Africa reveals that Brazil has captured Adwa, home of Lake Victoria. Once upon a time, the natural wonder might have been worth something, but now there are many future world improvements that provide just as much food and buildings that provide even more. Also featured in this slide, one of the last remaining significant stretches of forest in the world. Most of the world's forests were cut down by the sieves, leaving only the patches with deer or truffles, but many of those have since been nuked off the map. But not these. This is the primordial forest, possibly the last on the cylinder, and for the first time, possibly ever, it will soon see the horrors of war. With an ignominious whimper, the Blackfoot are expelled from North America. The Inuit have taken Veracruz despite Henry Parkes' best efforts to preserve Blackfoot sovereignty, and now the enormous army of the White Walkers stretches almost unbroken across the continent. One must wonder, will Eknik try to seek out the last Blackfoot strongholds in the Pacific, or will he call it quits and turn his attention to another weak neighbor? Will the buffalo hunt continue until no more bison remain? The Inuit appear to be bombing Honolulu with stealth bombers, which suggests that Eknik may be considering an aquatic invasion, but without a significant detachment of the ice sheet fleet, Blackfoot Hawaii will probably remain secure thanks to the very large flotilla still hanging around Mililani, Crowfoot's capital in exile. But we will see where this war goes in part 108, because it is now time for our endgame statistics review. In population, Australia holds the top spot thanks to the downfall of the Boers, but Brazil is rapidly catching up. Pedro's cities are not large, he just has an awful lot of them. In fact, Brazil's population has increased by almost 100 million just since the end of part 106. In production, Brazil is the undisputed king with 9,000 more hammers than the number 2 Inuit, even though most of Pedro's conquests are still puppeted. The Boers, who once seemed so unstoppable, have fallen to 7th, below Korea, but still a hair above Iceland. Brazil's military manpower, however, has suffered a drop of over 4 million, or 40%, while the Inuit have almost doubled their soldier count. If Pedro insists on conquering the rest of the Boers without spending some serious time and energy replenishing his forces, he might actually lose his top spot in the military. Unsurprisingly, Brazil now has the most world wonders, while the Boers still cling on to 10, including Skynet. It was often said that Skynet was the most important wonder still in the game, but it doesn't seem to be helping them much. Maybe it's having some issues. Do all the uploaded citizens just see an 8-bit blue screen with cutesy Skynet logo and the words, "Skynet is down for maintenance"? It's a blue screen of death they're facing soon. The religion overview shows that the newly reformed Catholicism has spread via brain implant to over 220 cities. Unsuspecting citizens will periodically wake up to discover that they became Catholic during the night and that the uninstall button is grayed out. They can reform themselves to a different religion, they just have to unlock it in a couple of loot crates. And lastly, we have the religion map itself, which reveals the true extent of Catholicism. Australia has covertly converted almost all of Eurasia to its religion, which has spread as far west as Sweden and as far east as Alaska. One place it has not spread, however, is the Australian core, which remains a firm mix of Theravada and atheist. Blackfoot Aryanism, meanwhile, has spread to virtually every city in the Americas and has nowhere left to go. At least that will be the lasting Blackfoot legacy. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you all for allowing me to narrate this frankly shocking episode, and I'll see you in the comments. And my name is Dawkinzz. This has been the worst episode ever as a Blackfoot fan, but what are you going to do? Anyway, appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. As every YouTuber says ever, great, I'm a shill. And we'll see you next time.